Mr. Speaker, for the purpose of debate only, I yield the customary 30 minutes to my friend, the gentleman from Colorado, a brand-new father who today presents himself on the floor as we work together. I yield this time to Mr. Polis, Penny, which time I yield myself such time as I may consume.
The gentleman's recognized.
During consideration of this resolution, all times yielded for the purpose of debate only. Mr. Speaker, unanimous consent, all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks. House Resolution 453 provides for a structured rule for consideration of H.R. 2930 and H.R. 2940. This rule allows for all 7 amendments submitted to the Rules Committee by Democrats and Republicans to be made in order. Mr. Speaker, I rise today in support of this rule and the underlying bills. H.R. 2930, the Entrepreneur Access to Capital Act, was introduced on September 14th, 2011 by my friend and the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Pat McHenry, and was reported by the Committee on Financial Services by a voice vote. Last week, the second bill, H.R. 2940, the Access to Capital for Job Creators Act, was introduced by the Republican Majority Whip, the gentleman from California, Mr. McCarthy, and also passed the Committee on Financial Services by a voice vote last week. Both pieces of legislation have been run through regular order. Members from both sides of the aisle have had opportunities to submit perfecting ideas, and those amendments have been carefully considered. Every amendment that was submitted to the Rules Committee was made in order and will be given full and fair consideration today. The Chairman of the Rules Committee, the gentleman, Mr. Dreyer, has once again allowed the House to work its will through an inclusive legislative process. On December 10th, 2009, I stood on the floor and I argued then against the rules consideration for the bill known as the Dodd-Frank Financial Reform Bill. It should be noted that I authored 2 proposals amongst many Republican and Democratic members that were all shut out that day. Speaker Nancy Pelosi chose to advance the Dodd-Frank bill without any open process consideration. The result of that legislation has caused great concern in financial markets, not just here in the United States, but has caused financial concern around the world. Today, the Republican House is changing that course in consideration of bills from the Financial Services Committee. Today, we're looking at targeting a removal of outdated regulations simply to encourage market access for millions of small businesses, to encourage not only investment but also jobs in America. So, for those who are listening to this, you could consider this a jobs creation bill. So, I would advance this cause down the street to the White House to encourage the President to know that this is yet another in a line of job-creating, job-saving, jobs in America bill that the U.S. House of Representatives is once again considering, and today on a bipartisan basis, with every single amendment that was submitted to the Rules Committee through an open process on the floor of the House of Representatives, ready for us to move this bill and vote on that today. Mr. Speaker, our economy has a revenue problem. The administration continues to promote policies that slow economic growth. Republicans believe that we must create an environment that encourages investment in small business, really the engine of our national job creators. This underlying bill will do just that. H.R. 2930 would remove restrictions on crowdfunding, allowing companies to pool small investors, small businesses, and entrepreneurs can raise capital equity. Outdated SEC regulations do not allow business owners in search of investments to solicit or to advertise. This legislation is needed and is being presented on a bipartisan agreement basis. Yesterday, I met with community bankers from Texas. Scott Holtenkamp, the president of Value Bank, John Jay, the president of Roscoe State Bank, and Milton McGee with the Independent Bankers of Texas, among others, who described to me their inability to raise capital investment, not due to a lack of willing investors, but as a result of burdensome or regulations which inhibit or do not allow this. They inform me that the SEC limit on individual investors restricts their abilities to raise funds through community participation in local business creation. I was proud to tell them, and I will tell them again today, I heard your story, and we are on the floor doing something about that that will be of immediate benefit and help to jobs and job creation in America. Today, on the floor of the House of Representatives in a bipartisan agreement fashion. H.R. 2940 allows for general solicitation and advertising which would attract private investment. Small, privately held companies will no longer be forced to have an existing relationship with potential investors. However, the legislation requires the SEC to ensure that investors are accredited. As Congressman Jared Polis from Colorado, the lead today for the Rules Committee on behalf of the minority, indicated at the Rules Committee meeting yesterday that crowd investment through new advertising mediums, such as social media, would allow for access to new pools of available capital. These are exactly the kinds of ideas that is being brought today to the floor for the creation of investment dollars to help jobs in America and to make sure that we're prepared for our future. Our nation is in crisis. We cannot wait. And with an unemployment population of over 14 million people, we cannot continue the failed policies of government spending which have brought us to this point. Investment capital for small business continues to sit on the sidelines because of the uncertainty created by burdensome regulations and outdated rules. The underlying bills will foster job creation by simply allowing the private sector to participate in this endeavor. The future success of our economy rests in the hands of private small business, not government. Unleashing their potential is the sole focus of this Republican majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. The result is an economic environment that promotes growth and generates revenue, as well as the creation of jobs in America. I urge my colleagues to vote for this fair rule that allows consideration of all requested amendments and to vote for the underlying bills. I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman